Hello, everybody, and welcome to another conversation here with Dan.
And the great Jed, the bearded one.
He is in rare form today, so this should be a fun conversation.
Yeah.
First off, thanks again for everyone who is commenting and sending in. As always, we appreciate hearing back from you guys on a variety of things.
Yes, and share.
Yeah. I mean, share the things. The more you comment and interact with people, the more they interact with it. And then we keep pushing out and reminding you that we are on podcasts now in a variety of spaces.
Some of which I don't even understand, but you can go ahead and tell them.
I know, you may not, but I bet a lot of them out there do. Whether they're on Stitcher or Apple or all sorts. Spotify, we're on Spotify now.
I've got some stitches I've had here and other places.
You see, this is what I deal with. But anyway,
Okay.
but let's get down to this week's question. Okay, so last week we talked, I forget if it was last week or the week before, we've released a few things. Anyway, a few weeks back we were talking about Sunday rules and various things like that. And we've had a lot of follow-up on the idea of going to church. Number one, is that like the correct terminology? Do you go to church? Because there's people out there that do the, well, we don't go to church, we are the church sort of phraseology. But then, is going to a Sunday assembly actually even commanded or necessary?
Jed, that's a wonderful question.
Why, thank you.
As in many cases, this idea that we don't go to church, we are the church, is a false dichotomy, meaning it's a false contrast, because what we really should say is, yes, we are the church and we also go to church. The word ecclesia means different things in different contexts. In some context, it describes the group of people that God has redeemed regardless of where they are, whether they're by themselves or whatever. When Jesus heard Peter's confession that he was the Christ, and said upon that confession that Jesus is the Christ, I'll build my church. Well, the Pentecost sermon ended with, let everybody know for sure that God has made this Jesus both Lord and Christ. So that was the fundamental principle, that Christ is King, we should all obey Him. On that principle, this group of people is gathered around Jesus Christ. The church universal, Christ is the head of the church, Colossians 1:18. That's universally, Christ leads the church. Church, their ecclesia, means a group of people.
So it's the same word being used when it talks about you are added to Christ's church, or when they assembled, or different things?
It is the same word.
Okay.
But there are passages, clear passages, where the word ecclesia does not refer to the universal group, but refers to a gathering that happened on Sundays. And one of those passages is 1 Corinthians 11 through 14 that we've talked about many times. But particularly, look at 1 Corinthians 11:18.
Okay.
And read what yours says there.
Mine's the ESV. Mine in verse 18 says, "For in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear that there are divisions among you."
All right. Now, in the Greek text, literally, it says, first of all, when you come together in ecclesia, in the church. The word church here means the assembly.
Okay.
So a proper translation of this would be, first of all, when you come together in the assembly. And then when you go down to verse 20, he says again, when therefore you come together. And if you'll go down to verse 22, don't you have houses to eat and drink in, or do you despise the ecclesia of God? Well, he's saying that if you want to eat a common meal, eat at home. But the assembly, the gathering, is what you're despising. So clearly here he's talking about the gathering. But if you go over to 14:23, it's extremely clear.
Okay, 14:23 says, "If therefore the whole church comes together," and then it says, "all speak in tongues and outsiders enter," and all
when
those other
therefore
things.
the whole church comes together, actually epitouauto, which means in one place. So when the whole church comes together in one place.
Okay.
See, that's talking about all the people who are members of God's church independently.
Yeah.
Getting together in one place. And that is the assembly that happens on Sunday.
Okay, so to kind of take part A of this question with the idea of are the church go to church?
We definitely go to church in 1 Corinthians 11 through 14.
And we are the church.
Every day of our life.
Okay, so how much of that is, like, a lot of people have started using the terminology, we go to the assembly, we are the church.
Both same, 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other.
So is it more, and this probably from my background, I seem to remember feeling that transition when it was going to church meant I'm going to the church building and nothing beyond that.
Right, it meant you don't have a life as a Christian outside of that.
Yeah.
But that's false, and it contributes to the false dichotomy. The Bible teaches clearly that we live under the submission to Christ every single day in every single circumstance of our life, and we are the church every day. But the ecclesia of God gathers together on the Lord's Day, and this is clearly taught in the New Testament. Acts 20 and verse 7, like 1 Corinthians 11, when the church came together to break bread, the Lord's Supper. Paul preached to them. That's the coming together.
Yeah.
And this is part of the command associated with it is the command of Jesus, do this in remembrance of me. And one of the clearest things about the Lord's Supper in 1 Corinthians 11 is you're supposed to do this when you what?
Come together.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So we've got Jesus' command, do this, and Paul clearly saying you're supposed to do this when you come together. So the two commands together make it absolutely necessary, number one, that we come together. Number two, when we do this.
Okay. So that's, and that's kind of straying into that part B, the whether we actually need to be doing it. But I still want to clarify just a little bit because...
About part A?
About part A. Just because of...
Are we talking Medicare or are we talking the church? Because I'm on Medicare. Part A and B.
Again, here we go.
Yeah.
So with the language of it, is it... I think it's one of those where you go, is it wrong to say, I would rather use the term assembly just because it's clearer English?
No, I think it would be great, especially when you're looking at like 1 Corinthians 1 verse 2. To the assembly of God at Corinth, or to the assembly of God of the Thessalonians, or whatever. The assembly of the Thessalonians, which are in God the Father and in the Lord Jesus Christ. One of the things I think people miss when they say you don't need to go to church is structurally, organizationally, spiritually, an ecclesia, singular, a congregation. So we've got church worldwide.
Right.
We've got congregation.
Local meetings.
Yeah, but congregation is a group, a church in one location that does what? They regularly come together.
Right.
So elders in Acts 14, 22, 23 were appointed in each ecclesia. Each congregation.
Yeah.
Now, how can you spiritually watch over souls and look after souls if those souls are never coming together?
Yeah.
See, because the coming together lets the elders look over the sheep and make sure they check on the sheep. So, number one, you're supposed to come together because Jesus said, do this.
Yeah.
And number two, you're supposed to come together because you need to be accountable to spiritual leadership, which never would see you if you never came together.
And then I think taking it beyond even that, if you're someone who truly follows Christ, isn't there an element of, with all the, and we've talked about this in other videos, with repentance and different things, you've had a heart change that leads to a desire to be in that situation.
Yes.
Like I love Jesus enough that I want to be with his people.
Well, if I love Jesus, if I've submitted, let's use the word submitted.
There we go.
See, we got rebellious spirits going on here.
Always.
If we've submitted to Jesus, and Jesus says do this, and Jesus' ambassadors, the apostles, say do this as you come together, then I'm not going to be rebellious and say, well, Jesus, I know you said do this, and your ambassadors said do it when you come together, but I don't need to come together. Yes, you do if you're going to submit to Jesus.
Yeah.
Don't say you're submitting to Jesus and then refuse to do what Jesus and his ambassadors said to do. See, that's rebellion. On the other hand, there's an unselfish element to this, because in the encouragement to the Hebrews, it says, consider one another, that you may encourage unto love and good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together.
It is that looking after other people and wanting to be with them that's going on.
So why do we do this? We do this because we are considering each other. And we're trying to look after other people spiritually. If I refuse to gather with my brothers and sisters, I'm showing that I don't care anything about my brothers and sisters.
Okay. So let's go back and recap. Part A, we are the church and we go to church.
Yes.
So if you want to use the word I go to the assembly and am the church, that's fine. But,
sure.
But maybe lay off the I don't go to church.
Yes, you actually do go to church if you're a Christian.
I think it's part of that. Like I say, people got caught up in the, well, I go to the church building, and they wanted to get away from that. But it's built now. What we see is a false dichotomy of things there. Okay, so that's part A, and then part B, it's a mixture of it was commanded by Christ, and continued by the apostles that we should be in a weekly assembly. But it's also that part of when we have submitted to Him and we care for the people around us, we will desire to be part of that.
Absolutely. All of the above. I think you've summarized it nicely.
It's rare that you don't go, but I got this other thing.
The end. Part A, you get to go to the hospital. Part B, you can go to the doctor.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll see you guys next time with our next question.
Yes, indeed. Ba-dum.